This week, the Premier League has launched Together Against Suicide, a new initiative to support fans affected by suicide or suicidal thoughts, helping raise awareness of the information and expertise available to those who need it most. Together Against Suicide is backed by all 20 Premier League clubs and has been created with suicide prevention charity Samaritans, who provide people in the UK with free 24/7 emotional support. The initiative has been developed by the Premier League in collaboration with Tottenham Hotspur Chief Executive and Sky Sports presenter Roman Kemp. And Roman joins me now to talk more about this. Roman, thank you for coming on to talk about this subject. It is a subject that is close to your heart. Just explain a little bit about the thinking behind this.
Absolutely. You say it's a subject close to my heart. I think it's quite well documented. I've spoken about losing people to suicide and me and myself throughout my 20s having, pretty severe suicidal thoughts for myself. The initiative kind of came about in the way that I just think football has the capability of doing something that no other structure in society can do, which is bring people together and show emotion in a different way. And it was about 2 years ago, nearly to the day, that Vinay Venkatesham, who's a close friend of mine. At the time, he was Arsenal CEO, but now he's the Spurs CEO. We carried on talking. And I took this idea to him and I was like, I just want you to imagine the Emirates Stadium. I said, it's 60,000 seats, 15,000 people within that stadium. If you look at the stats that are related to suicide, which is 1 in 4 men having suicidal thoughts throughout their life, 15,000 people within that stadium are going through that at some point. That's a huge chunk of people that you're bringing to that stadium every single week. And there's an opportunity there to really make an impact on those numbers. Suicide is the biggest killer in men under the age of 50. It's the biggest killer in women under the age of 35. And where we are at in society right now is, unfortunately, if someone is experiencing those thoughts, their first thing is, I want to have that conversation, but I don't know where to have that conversation. We all know that thing of mental health. Oh, we should talk to one another, but there has to be an action as well. There has to be somewhere for that person to go. And what clubs do so brilliantly is that they're so well connected, through the local charities that they have in learning about who the people are that are turning up to their games, who are their fans, and why do they connect with them so well. So the idea came about to have every Premier League club be linked towards their local charities that can help see the people that need the help the most as quickly as possible. Because where we are currently is you join a waiting list, and the waiting list, the NHS and CAMS are doing the best they absolutely can, but those waiting lists are around 18 months to 12 months. Whereas these smaller charities that are linked to your football club can see you within 2 days. Some clubs that are stepping forward, they can see you on the match day. And that is nothing short of incredible. So this whole idea came around to be able to develop a place whereby every match day a fan can go to their team, to their club, to their stadium, and find out where I can have that first conversation. Because the second you have that first conversation, the second you open up about it, your actual risk of suicide is lowered massively. And that in itself, just shows that football really does have the power to save people's lives.
Yeah. And I mean, that image of the stadium and those numbers, that is incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
What was it like when you took it to the Premier League and then in turn just actually getting this incredible support from them?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've never been a part of a project as ambitious as this, and I can't say I wasn't apprehensive about how it would go, but that first conversation that myself and Vinay had with Richard Masters was nothing short of incredible. I've never felt so much support for something, and that's why Richard and his team and everyone at the Premier League deserve to be applauded for this, because this is absolutely massive. Even just a campaign that has the word suicide in the title and having that as out there in the open as possible is major. You look at what football is so good at doing. I was going to a football stadium, and every time I would see, stuff about inclusivity or stuff, no room for racism, all fantastic causes and fantastic, kind of things that are against stuff to do with society. But there was nothing to do with the biggest killer within that stadium. And when you explained that to Richard and to Vinay, it was kind of almost a no-brainer.
Why do you think it almost has become, I don't know about using the word taboo, but a taboo subject, that people are almost afraid to talk about it and have these conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, that's something that has gone on through different stages of different, diseases or problems that we've had throughout life. There was a moment during the 90s where people wouldn't talk about cancer necessarily. People would be ashamed to talk about that, and they would call it the big C. They didn't want to say the word out loud. It's the same with AIDS in the 80s. It was something that you weren't allowed to talk about. With suicide, there is so much shame attached to it, and that's so unfortunate, but that is the reality of what it is. So that's why I think these initiatives, and one of the greatest things that out of the data that the Premier League have gone away and done that shocked me the most was that it's around 70% of men are more likely to talk to their football club than they are their own GP. And that says so much to me that if these people are struggling, and a football stadium is a honeypot for what is statistically a suicidal person, there should be an outlet there for them. And I think that taboo will go the more we see something like this. You're looking at something that literally says suicide being wrapped around a football stadium. It's a massive step forward.
And would this kind of thing have helped you? You spoke about the thoughts that you had.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're in that moment, I can only speak from personal experience. When you're in that moment, you hear people say, oh, talk to your mates or talk to this thing. Sometimes you don't. I just want to know, where can I get help? I just need someone to help me. And that's a real struggle. You've got people that don't know where to go when they need that help. And their first, thought process, which would be my thought process, is, okay, I'll go to A&E. And A&E really isn't the right place for someone that is going through a mental breakdown or is going through suicidal thoughts, because it's already a hectic environment. So the idea that my football club can support me and help me get through something that I don't know what's going on, but I feel a connection to this place. That's why some people, you liken football to religion. It's the same thing that you do. It's that same feeling that I imagine. I'm not necessarily a religious person, but when I have friends that go to, the church, the synagogue, mosque, anything like that, they have that sense of community. They have that sense of safety. And I feel that same thing when I step into a football stadium. And I think that's something that really can harness the power of all this.
Yeah. And Roman, just to finish, you have touched on it already, but just to reiterate, for fans that are going to watch their team this weekend, that are struggling, what support will be available for them?
So all 20 Premier League clubs have backed the initiative. All 20 Premier League clubs will be doing it slightly differently to each other, because they will be linked to their own charities. Currently, we have 11 clubs who are rolled out in the full pilot scheme. And if they go to premierleague.com/Together Against Suicide, there is each of their clubs that they can either click on, and it will link them through to a local charity that they can see as soon as possible. Some of which are already doing hubs where you can do that all within the stadium. You'll see QR codes within stadiums, and all confidential, and all the support and information you need will be on a match day.